All right, this is hopefully the somewhat final day. I cleaned up the exhaust manifold, sandblasted it, got it nice and cleaned up. Everything else is ready to go, basically. I got to put the exhaust manifold on. Then I got to clean up the garage. I got to move the Camaro in the garage over to the other side, so that I can get the engine and the engine hoist on the other side, because obviously my truck is on the other side of the driveway, so that I can install the engine into the truck. I did go get a new temperature sensor that's got to go on the other side. I think I'm going to wait until the engine's in. Well, probably put it in now, actually. I also have new spark plug wires. I had to get a few new exhaust manifold bolts because obviously I had a couple that were broken on the engine, so let's get this exhaust manifold on. We'll probably get the motor mounts on as well. I got to adjust this sensor here so that the oil dipstick tube can go in, because as of right now, obviously the oil dipstick tube won't go in. Like I said, I got brand new bolts from GM. Just a couple new ones. I'll still use a couple older ones, but still. I still have a cough from the flu that I had quite a few weeks ago. It's starting to get a little bit annoying, to be honest. It sucks. Flu in general sucks. It was bad this year. I was able to somewhat combat it pretty easily, but for some people, obviously they were not able to, but I can't do anything about that. Oh, what the hell? Sorry, I got my gasket backwards. Just gotta flip it. That way the bolt holes line up. I gotta go get another bolt. I'm just checking to see if this will work. Hopefully it's not too long. Might be too long. How long are these bolts? Oh, it should be okay. Sorry, these are just, I have to use a bolt different bolt. Reason being, I had to drill out this one and change the threads on it to metric 10. So I'm just replacing the bolt from my other engine. Reusing a bolt from my other engine. So I'm just going to clean up this bolt. A little bit of oily as well. I don't know if you guys haven't noticed, I'm a little picky when I start putting things back together again. I like it to be nice and clean. One of the main reasons why I do that is because I've had it where when I was working in the shop, yes, you can put it back together and it might not necessarily have an issue. However, if it's dirty, you don't know if someone comes back and complains that it's dirty or that it's leaking oil again. At least you can find out where it is a little bit easier when it goes back in nice and clean. When it's not nice and clean, then I find it's more difficult. It takes a little bit more time to diagnose the issue. And I don't like that. Pain in the butt. So, there we go. So I try and keep things nice and clean as best as I can. Just makes it easier for me in the long run. They only had 3 exhaust manifold bolts at GM at the time, so, and that's all I needed because I got two original ones that I can use. I'm just going to clean them up a bit again. Now I know you probably saw in the brand new bolts that there's a yellow Loctite on it. I don't have yellow Loctite. I could use blue. But I'm gonna just leave it for right now because I might go get yellow Loctite eventually, and then it's a quick and simple fix while it's in the truck. So I'm just gonna leave it for now. Now, which socket do I got here? Let's see. Where is it? Oh. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to clean up all the tools. Been busy inside the house as well. Obviously, Christmas is coming, so there's times where I go out and do things, get stuff ready for Christmas. I love Christmas. I love spending time with my daughter on Christmas. She really enjoys it too. Obviously. All right. Sorry, just checking the torque specs. I closed it. Okay, so it says 132 inch-pounds, and it says 15 foot-pounds. So I'm gonna go 15 foot-pounds. Oh, I'm All right, one more left to torque. And I'll put the motor mounts on. So that one I put just a little bit more just because it's a slightly longer bolt. And I just wanted to make sure that it had a good mating surface. So that one I just put a little bit longer. Or sorry, a little bit more. Now I'm gonna, where did I put my spark plugs? Spark plugs. I'm gonna check the gap on those. I'll get those put in. Where is it? Sorry, I have stuff kind of everywhere right now. Everywhere and all over the place. That's why I'm going to be cleaning it all before I put the engine in the truck, just so everything's all in order. So all I'm doing here is just checking the gap, making sure it's at the proper gap, which is at 40.040, which most of these are. They couldn't, but I always double check before I put them in. Now this time I just went with the cheap spark plugs, just the stock factory spark plugs. I didn't go with the iridium. Normally, if you look at my old spark plugs, they're the iridium. I'm just going with the regular ones this time. I want to see if there's much of a difference. These are all at 40, which is perfect. I don't need to change them. I don't need to adjust them. So I'm supposed to get a whole bunch of snow over the next day or two, so this is what I'm trying to get this done so that it can be basically hopefully done. And I can start driving the truck again. Now, I didn't go with new coils because the coils that I have are good. There's no issues with those. Believe it or not, coils can be a little bit expensive at times too. I think they're about $150 a coil, if I remember correctly. There's certain parts that I get from GM. There's certain parts that I won't get from GM. So, like, let's use, for example, spark plug wires. GM wanted $250 my price for spark plug wires, which is absolutely ridiculous. Because Rock Auto or Napa is $120, and they work just as good. The big thing with me is every time I do spark plugs about every 80,000 kilometers. It's the same time I also try and replace the front diff and rear diff oil in the truck as well. Every 80,000 kilometers. Reason being is it's just maintenance, general maintenance, makes it last longer. But so the main reason why when I do spark plugs, I'll do it every 80,000 K. I'll also do the plug wires. Like, it's just general maintenance. It's cheap enough. So, like, these spark plugs cost me $20. Spark plug wires cost $120. So you're looking at $140. But you're doing general maintenance. Before, because I had fouling of the plugs because of obviously how old the truck is and the engine oil and everything else, it just happens, right? Like, over time. So because of that, that's why I try and replace them. I was replacing them regularly. I don't know if I can probably show you some fouled plugs. Let me see if I find the one that was usually the issue. So this one was usually the issue, which was number 7. It's not as bad as what it used to be because I found the issue that was causing the problem. But these used to be very oil fouled. So what happened, believe it or not, was years ago, I had an issue with number 7 cylinder on the cylinder head. Took it to a shop, had the shop do the work, and unfortunately the shop did not torque down the valley cover plate properly, and the bolt was out, as well as the intake was missing a bolt as well. So what was happening was the oil was going past the valley cover and going into the intake and fouling up the plugs. So you might go and spend a couple $1,000s at a shop, but they might not necessarily take the time to double check those things or make sure those things are correct. So I even took it to another shop, a different shop, and had them check it. They could not figure out what was the issue. So they told me just replace the spark plugs regularly, as long as the engine's running fine. If the engine's not running fine, then obviously take it back to them and have them check it. But the engine was running fine. and it ran perfectly fine up until the lifter failed. I just replaced the spark plugs on a regular basis, and I had no issues. So now with the all this work done to the engine, hopefully everything will work out. I'm quite happy with, so grand total for rebuilding this engine, with all the parts. I'm obviously not going to include labor, but because I obviously enjoy doing this kind of stuff. But when it comes to like all the parts and everything to go through, I'm not going to include the tools because obviously I'm going to reuse the tools anyways, but I'm just going to go with the parts itself. I did break an oil dipstick tube, but I do have a new one. I'm not going to put that in until the engine's in the truck, because when it actually broke when I was taking the engine out, it got caught even with the hood off of the truck. But besides that, for all the parts and everything, I'm under $3,000 into replacing stuff on this truck. So on this engine itself. So that's through Rock Auto. As you can see in most of these parts, it's GM genuine. So I don't know if you can see, it says GM genuine parts. Believe it or not, I get the same ones. So this one, I actually purchased directly from GM. So whether you get it from GM, whether you get it from Rock Auto, whatever it may be, I just found when I order the GM genuine parts, I don't have issues with the parts itself. They usually they work, and I usually don't have issues. Like, don't get me wrong, some of the other brands, like the cheaper brands or whatever, they're okay. I have used them. They do work. Especially if you're, like, say, in a pinch. But for me, I just found the GM genuine parts seem to work. So that's just what works for me. Now, for you guys, you can use whatever parts you want. Doesn't bother me any. But everything that was replaced on this engine, from crankshaft bearings, camshaft, lifters, I got new pistons. I reused the old rods, but I have new main cap bolts. I got new rod bolts for the pistons. I've got new cylinder head bolts. With one of, believe it or not, one of the cylinder head bolts failed and didn't torque, so I wound up going to GM and getting new ones. I wound up buying two just in case. And believe it or not, the very first one, I was able to get it to torque, and it torqued perfectly fine, no issues. So that just goes to show how the other parts didn't wound up working properly. Didn't torque. It just wouldn't torque properly. But I got a new one, and it was perfectly fine. I also got new lifter. There's new lifter bolts in here for all the lifters. There's exhaust manifold bolts. Obviously, I got a couple of those that I needed. Exhaust or spark plugs. I got those. Spark plug wires. Now, like I said, spark plug wires, I went with the Napa brand, which is perfectly fine. Even, I'll use this example. I think it was a year, maybe 2 years ago, I even have a brand new GM transfer case in the truck. I do have the original transfer case is in here. I plan on rebuilding at some point here. On a regular basis, I also rebuild the CV axles because they fail over time. It's just how it happens sometimes. What else? Oh, come on. There we go. Yeah, for $3,000, I was able to basically go through this engine. I cleaned it all up. Replaced pretty much everything that was necessary on here that needed to be replaced, that I felt needed to be replaced. And like I said, my goal is to that hopefully this will last me another 464,000 kilometers. Because, well, that's when the lifter failed. Was it 464,000? So these particular bolts can be a pain in the butt. I didn't show you how I took these off, but I needed to use heat. And I've got one regular set and one, I don't know how to say, I guess, cheaper set. And it's weird because the cheaper set that I have fits a little tighter on the bolt, as you can see. And it works. So there's one that's broken. I'm not even going to try and drill that out. It's solid. It's not going anywhere. So let's get this temperature sensor in. Now, I don't know if you guys saw in the other video how it broke, but essentially when I was trying to do this cylinder head bolt, I didn't have a I was trying to tighten it, but I realized that this sensor was in the way and I was going to take it off, but it was unfortunately too late. So now I got a brand new temperature sensor. Now, surprisingly enough, these were expensive too. So I got this one from GM because I was going to order on Rock Auto. However, the shipping was costing the same as if I bought it here from GM. So Rock Auto was $20 for the exact same sensor, believe it or not, the exact same sensor. However, the shipping for it would have made it to $60. The sensor, buying it here, was $60. So it just made sense for me to purchase it here. That way I didn't have to wait for the sensor itself because I probably would have gotten the sensor, I think maybe tomorrow is what it said for shipping. So obviously I wound up just going and getting the sensor from GM. And that's the other thing too, like when it came to the parts ordering from Rock Auto for the engine, I made sure to basically keep an eye on the pricing. So they did go up in price at one point because of the tariffs. Luckily, I waited a little bit before I wound up ordering the parts. I think I waited a month, and then all of a sudden the tariffs were off and the price went down by a couple $100. So I saved a couple $100 that way. So that's done. That's done. So the only other thing that I got to do is I got to get the flex plate on the back of the engine here as well. That way I don't forget to do it. That's got to go on the back of the engine. That's all cleaned up. But in order to do that, I got to obviously lift up the engine itself. Take the stand off of there, and then she should be okay. The other thing that I have to do is I also got to prime the engine. So I will show you guys priming the engine there. I'm going to prime the engine before I even put the engine in the truck. Just because I have a little... Again, I was having issues trying to find parts. So it's a little kind of makeshift piece for priming the engine. So it goes in there, and then obviously it'll run the engine oil through the oil pump and through the engine. I will do that when I, obviously, before I put it in the truck, and I'll show you guys that. Because I want to make sure that the oil's running through everything. That way when I go to start it up, hopefully I can try and start it up later on today. Then hopefully it'll be nice and like there's enough oil in there. I did torque the front bolt. That was a big pain in the butt. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, these are difficult, especially if you can't stop the engine from turning. So I'm gonna probably try again after I get the flex plate on. Because I can use the flex plate to kind of stop the engine from turning. So and according to, like, I know it's cheap enough for these bolts for the front harmonic balancer bolts. Obviously I got 2 of them. But according to the book, you can reuse the old one just once. It does show you the torque specs, how to do it. You got to torque it a little different, but it does apparently work. But because of how cheap the bolt is, quite literally the bolt is only $7. I'd just spend the $7 and get a new bolt. And like I said, I have an extra. One of the main reasons why I bought an extra is because I'm going to build the other engine for the car as well at some point. I won't build the engine until the car is close to being ready. Obviously, the car's not close to being ready because I gotta cut out the floors, put in new floors. I gotta do a whole bunch of other work to it, including roll cage and all that fun stuff. So new K members and and everything costs money. So money comes, money goes. We got to make sure we enjoy life and build race cars and have fun. So anyways, I'm not going to bore you with me cleaning up the garage. So when I go to prime the engine and that, I will come back on and I will show you guys, and then I'll probably video myself putting the engine back in the truck. Hopefully I don't have to swear too much when I'm putting the engine in the truck. And then, yeah, right on. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.